All right, Steeler fans, it is Friday, and even though the Steelers aren't playing, the All Betz Are Off segment still runs. Jeremy Betz, he's wearing a Ohio hat on, I guess, but whatever. I have a shirt that says "Worst State Ever," and it's the outline of Ohio. But I digress. Hell, welcome
Yeah.
to the show. How's it going,
Oh,
Jeremy?
it's going great. Rooting for somebody who actually wins something is fun. I don't know,
I
Jeff,
get
if
it.
you know anything about that currently.
No, I
But
don't. I follow
yeah,
3 teams that seem like they're destined to just be either mediocre or suck
yeah.
constantly. So
It's like those three teams are consistently battling to see who can be more frustrating, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, when people start comparing Art Rooney to Bob Nutting, like
Oh,
holy hell, it's going sideways real quick. But anyways, I
yeah.
want to talk with you about something I talked about in the first half of the show. I mean, you think about it, like it's been almost 2 weeks since the season ended.
Yep.
Everyone was waiting for change, right? Like everyone was waiting for change, and you're
Yep.
not going to see player change at this time. That's not going to happen
Right.
until the new league year. But everyone wanted coach change, and it's been
Yep.
nothing. I don't know if you agree with me here. I don't think anything's happening. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's getting canned. I think if Terrell Austin was going to be fired, he would have been fired already. They would have wanted to start the process of getting a new
Yep.
DC in there. What if, though? I want to get your take on this. What if the change Tomlin was talking about was not via subtraction, but was actually in addition? Meaning they bring in more coaches. He doesn't say, let's have the smallest freaking staff in the NFL.
Yeah.
Let's bring in some help. Let's get Pat Meyer some help. Let's get him some tangible, whether it's run game specialists, whatever it is. Would that be okay with you? I know we want to see the players. We want to see some players not return. We want to see some coaches get
Yeah.
fired. If that's not going to happen, would the change of addition be okay in your opinion?
It would be it would be at least acceptable. I don't know. Okay is probably a
Yeah.
good word. I wouldn't say that I would be absolutely thrilled by it because it still holds to a very um easy to call out part of the Steelers that's very frustrating is that they are resistant to doing things a different way, to new
Right.
ideas, to different minds getting into that building. So to me, it resembles status quo a little too much to get excited about it. But you can see some of the merits to it, I guess, if you want to continue to be a competitive team that maybe doesn't quite get all the way there. But for me, if we think about it from Tomlin's perspective, obviously he's looking at it as if, okay, I believe in my approach to building a roster. I've been doing it for 17 years, 18 years now. Um, in order to change how the process is done, you have to change the guy who establishes the processes. And since that did not happen, I think we have to be just hopeful that there's a breakthrough of some kind somehow. Whether that's getting a talent at quarterback that just raises the ceiling of your team too much, or like you're saying, adding in these maybe minds that can give tangible help to guys like Terrell Austin and Pat Meyer. You like what Terrell Austin does with the secondary, but the front for the pass rush, that has definitely been an area of weakness for the team since he took over. So if you can identify the weak areas of that and make real improvements to those situations, I think it's a step in the right direction, although not quite as far as I would take it.
Yeah, I think it is important to note that while people might be resistant to change, they can change.
Yes.
When you think about, I'll give you a great example. The guy's team is playing in the NFC Championship game. Look at Dan Quinn. Okay, Dan
Yep.
Quinn had a shot in Atlanta, didn't work out. DC and Dallas gets another shot. He clearly has changed. He's changed his methodology, who he puts around him. Now, Mike Tomlin is not being fired, being relegated to a defensive coordinator, and then coming back to head coaching. But that doesn't mean that Mike Tomlin couldn't take a really hard look at himself and
Yeah.
say, we need to change and I need to change. And if we don't, nothing is ever going to be different. We as fans hope that happens. But at the same time, I think that we're clearly not going to get the change that we want. We
Yeah.
want someone fired. And
Right.
because I think that as a fan, we view that as accountability,
Yeah.
but they might not view it that way. But I also have to say this, and I said it at the very end of my first segment here, is that sometimes coaches' contracts expire and we don't even know it. And then they hire someone else. You're like, wait a second. Did he get fired? Like, no, his
Yeah.
contract was like,
Where did
oh,
that come
okay. So
Yeah.
we might still hear that, but I don't know, Jeremy. What are your thoughts moving forward with the coaching staff?
Yeah, if I can, and I don't want to be like super controversial on the show today, but if I can disagree with you a little bit
Yes, you
about the
can.
Dan Quinn situation, I look at Dan Quinn in Atlanta, and this is a guy who, in his second year as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, went to a Super Bowl with an established quarterback who had an MVP caliber season under Kyle Shanahan, offensive genius,
Yep.
who he brought in to handle that side of the ball. You
You're
look
right.
at the resurgence here of Washington. It's his first year there, obviously. He's got some experience now that he brings with him. But what did he do? He went out and hired a guy known for his offensive mind in Cliff Kingsbury to run the offense. The difference now, to me, is that he's got an actual, like a potential Hall of Fame type player at quarterback if that trajectory that Jaden Daniels is on continues that way.
Right.
Matt Ryan was never that necessarily. So to me, it's a very similar situation for Dan Quinn. I just think he knows how to build a staff, and I think he's a little more in touch with what works on offense than maybe Mike Tomlin is. So I don't see a lot of changes from Dan Quinn. I just see a little bit of a change of scenery.
Well, okay, you bring up a great point. Very fair, very valid, and you can disagree with me anytime you're on this program. You
Okay.
have to ask permission, okay, first and foremost. Second thing is, though, if we simplify it to the umpteenth degree, are we not just saying that if you have a really good quarterback, you have a really good shot of winning? Like, is this really what it boils down to? Mike Tomlin looked really good when Ben Roethlisberger was out there slinging the rock. He's not there anymore. They have been in quarterback purgatory. Washington was in quarterback purgatory up until the drafting of Jaden Daniels. Matt Ryan was a good enough quarterback to get to a Super Bowl. Was he great? Is he Hall of Fame worthy? I don't think so.
Right.
But still, he was a big name player in his time. Is that really as simple as it gets?
Well, I don't know if you listened to Ben Johnson's introductory press conference with the Bears, but he was talking about how the analytics have changed in football to display that quarterback play matters more to the win-loss outcome than the one that has always been the standard, which is the one Mike Tomlin lives off of, which is turnover differential. Right. Turnover margin used to be the king when it came to deciding the outcome of games. That takes a second place now to quarterback success, and quarterback success rate is king now. So if you can get a quarterback that can elevate everything around him and change that ball game, then you have a much better shot. So yes, I agree with you. You either, in my opinion, you have to have either an elite offensive play caller who elevates the team with the system, like you saw Ben Johnson with Jared Goff in Detroit, or you need a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen that can transcend everything else and take you to that next level. Jaden Daniels, probably combined with Cliff Kingsbury, is a little bit of both there.
Yeah. Let's go down this rabbit hole for a little bit. Let's say the Steelers keep Justin Fields. I don't care about contract. I don't care about how long. In 2025, that man is the quarterback one. That's all we're talking about here. And they're clearly keeping Arthur Smith. Do you think that Arthur Smith, given an entire offseason with a quarterback that he at least has some experience with, can build an offense around someone like Justin Fields? Or do you think that he is a coordinator that's like, I need a Ryan Tannehill type back when he was in Tennessee, and if it's not that, it doesn't work for me? How do you view Arthur Smith in that regard?
So I think you hit on a really important point when it comes to the Arthur Smith discussion, is that the offense that he was building was designed for the pole position quarterback, Russell Wilson, all this offseason.
Exactly.
And I think there is precedent from Arthur Smith where he can take what he has and elevate it to a degree. You look at Marcus Mariota as the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, they went 7-8 that year, or 7 and 10, 8 and 9.
I think he had 7 and 10 seasons before he got fired.
7 and 10, that's right. But for a while there, they at least had a top 10 run game, and they were getting a guy who was, by all accounts, a run-first quarterback in Marcus Mariota, dealing a little bit. Now, the difference there to me is that Fields tends to play outside the numbers as a passer, whereas Mariota was a little bit more willing to throw over the middle of the field. So that might be the big discrepancy we're talking about here. But overall, I do think that it would be a lot more competent looking over the course of a full season if you commit to Justin Fields early on in the process and give Arthur Smith a chance to create an offense that is designed around his skill set completely without having to go back and forth. Well, if Russell Wilson is in, then this changes everything.
I think people underestimate the challenge that Arthur Smith had in 2024.
Yeah.
Just look at the offensive line. I mean, he went from Broderick Jones potentially competing for a left tackle spot. Troy Fautanu wins the right tackle spot. He gets hurt. Now you have no option. It's Dan Moore and Broderick Jones for the rest of the year. Isaac Seumalo misses the first 4 games of the season. James Daniels is there, but then he gets lost for the year. You have a rookie center, then a 4th-round pick going in at right guard. All that does matter, but let's also not forget Russell Wilson and his calf injury happens on the first day of training camp. So all the work they did in the spring, mini camp, OTAs is all about Russell Wilson in this plan. And then, well, that doesn't work for Justin Fields. So let's kind of scrap it. And then we have 6 weeks of Justin Fields. And then we got to go back to what we had practiced all offseason and getting ready. And that's tough. And I'm not making excuses for the guy. And I have no idea whether he is the type of coordinator that can come in and say, give me Justin Fields. There are reports that he wanted him to stay in no matter what. Give me Justin Fields. Give me a full offseason, and I'm going to make it work. I don't know if he's that type of guy or not.
Well, one thing I look at that gives me some optimism is just the simple fact that Steelers fans were over here scratching our heads, but the guy had 2 head coach interviews with desperate teams needy of head coaches. And it didn't work out, but I mean, look at the 2 guys that ended up in those spots. It's guys that people were waiting on these guys to get it, to move on from their roles in Detroit. And now that they have, Arthur Smith obviously tumbles down the board a little bit. But I mean, Dan Graziano from ESPN was saying he thought Arthur Smith might be the favorite for the Jets job. And so the respect he has across the league for, how he operates things, the way he designs offense, I think that is a little bit outside the box of what we're used to as Steeler fans over the last few years, where it's like, if Randy Fichtner was trying to get a job outside of Pittsburgh, I don't think it was going to happen. If Matt Canada was trying to get a job outside of Pittsburgh, it's not going to happen. And we saw that it didn't. So Arthur Smith, though, he's going to have suitors if the Steelers were to move on from him. Obviously by his head coaching, the interviews for being a head coach, that tells me that there's some optimism across the league about what he can bring to the table.
It's going to be interesting. Interesting. But, that's when I was thinking, and that's the title of today's podcast is, could the change be addition and not always subtraction? I'm starting to think that's the only thing we're going to see.
Yeah,
I hope that when the new league year starts and they've hopefully created upwards of $80 million in cap space, the additions are significant.
Yes.
Not your, let's go for the second tier players and try to make them fit into our system. No, let's go out and get guys that are proven commodities that we know are going to fit, that are going to, take a team from mediocre to above in terms of their position group. But that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that as March. I think it's March 12th as the start of the new league year. Let's talk a little bit about the playoffs. The AFC and NFC championship games are coming up, and that's always exciting. That is always exciting. And so let's talk a little bit about these games, and let's do some predictions as we always do on this show. Let's start with the first game. NFC Championship game, the Washington Commanders. We talked about Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn a little bit already. 3 p.m. Eastern time in Philadelphia against Eagles. The Eagles are spotting 6. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, so I look at their last matchup, and people are going to point to that as why Washington can potentially win. But who started at quarterback in that game? It was Kenneth Shane Pickett.
He came into that game.
Oh, you're right.
Daniels got hurt and left, so he didn't even get the reps going into that. He came in off the bench.
Right, Hurts got hurt, and then Pickett came in and tried to lead them the rest of the way. He couldn't do it, and the Commanders had a comeback after that. The Eagles are a better football team. They're more physical. They've got more talent on both sides of the ball in total, and they've been there, done that at this point. So this is as cool a story as Washington is this year, as incredible as it is, I think that this is where the run ends. Now you get a familiar opponent in Philadelphia who's played you twice, probably would have beaten you twice if it weren't for losing their star quarterback. Saquon's playing on another level. It's going to be, a raucous crowd in Philadelphia. Nobody wants to travel there. I think I like the Eagles in this game, and I think that they handle business and cover the point spread as well.
I like the Eagles to win, but I don't like the 6-point spread. I think it's too much. Jaden Daniels, I think they're going to keep it close. He's just that type of guy. He's kind of unflappable. Like you don't see both of these quarterbacks are actually very similar in terms of their demeanor.
Yes.
Nothing seems like Jalen Hurts. Like the dude could win on Sunday, and you would probably think that he's being punished in some way. Like,
Right.
dude, can you smile? Like, can you be happy about something for once? I don't know, but still, I like the Eagles, but I like the Commanders to keep it close. I would take the Commanders getting 6 in this position. The over-under is 47.5. I would take the over.
Okay. Yeah, I'd take the over too. Have you seen the Jaden Daniels virtual reality training?
I didn't see it. I heard about it.
Yeah. So I guess he's ever since his break between Alabama and LSU, when he moved to LSU and then had the great season, he started training in VR, and they would simulate games for him that he had played and upcoming opponents as well at 1.75 speed. So like if you go on YouTube and move it forward and play it at 1.75 speed, he was learning how to view the game in fast forward, literally through VR. And he says that changed his life as a quarterback. I'm assuming that something like that is going to really catch on moving forward for these college quarterbacks. And just as an example, I think a guy like Bill Belichick going to UNC, that's going to change how quarterbacks are evaluated and how the college game preps quarterbacks for the NFL. So Jaden Daniels could be the first in a long line of a new generation of quarterbacks. And I think it's good for the game. Hopefully, more quarterbacks means better play around.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to the second game, the AFC Championship game in Arrowhead. Bills at Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are giving 2 points. So they don't even get the home field 3. What's your take on this? This is going to be a good game.
This is going to be a great game. It always is. Unfortunately, it's always turned out the same in the playoffs as well, with Josh Allen riding the bus home and Patrick Mahomes heading off to a Super Bowl. Or in I think they met in the divisional round a couple years ago, and that was the 13-second game, and then it was Chiefs Bengals in the AFC Championship game. So, this game is the epitome of great quarterbacks clashing. Whichever quarterback has the better game, whichever defense can get just one stop in a crucial moment, probably wins this one. I'm going to ride with the Bills because I just think that they're kind of like the Lions, I thought were a team of destiny on the NFC side. Maybe I'm jinxing myself now saying this, but I really feel like the Bills feel that way too. They're tired of the disrespect and tired of being the baby brothers to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And I think that this changes things. I'm taking the Bills on the road. And I think it's going to be a 1 or 2 point game. So that spread is tight. I would obviously take the Bills here, but and then I'm going to take the over on this one as well. I think the quarterbacks take over.
So I'm going to say, give me the Bills getting 2. I think that you could bet Bills on the money line if you wanted.
Yeah.
And that's plus 110 odds. And I would say under. I'm taking the under. It's 48.5. That line moved up to 1 point. So it's 48.5. Take the under, but I do like the Bills to win. I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair than most people think. And I think Josh Allen makes a play when it matters most. And I would love nothing more than to not see Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl again. So
same.
All right, Jeremy, I'll let you get out of here. Go ahead and tell us what you're working on and all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely check out all the podcasts, the Q&A and the Fix and the Draft Dynasty podcast. We're diving into the NFL draft real heavy on that show. And then the Steelers Fix, we talked about offseason priorities for the Steelers. And, maybe too late, too late, but we still think that some coaches should see their way out the door potentially. But there's some more pressing priorities, I think. as far as mindset and as far as players go. So check out that show, and then stay tuned to steelcurtainnetwork.com, fansfirstsports.com. Lots of content coming out there from all of us, and yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy, appreciate it, man. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
Have a good one, Jeff.